All right, welcome on holding my Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, as it is known. Again, one welcome on holding by Pirkei Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, as it is known. We're in chapter 2, Mishna 16. This is part 3. There'll guarantee to be a part 4, part 5, part 6. I mean, that's what I'll speak about over here. So the Mishnah says again, the name of Rabbi Yeshua, that an evil eye, the evil inclination, and hatreds of other people remove a person from this world. All right. So we spoke the last few weeks about the evil eye, what we call ayin hara. We spoke about jealousy, and that's essentially what causes evil eye. But just to keep in mind, right? Just keep in mind, one thing we mentioned before, that what happens? Person does something, makes someone jealous, and essentially by making them jealous, God opens their file, right? And when he opens their file, he sees, are they guilty? Are they not guilty? Right? So making somebody jealous in general is not good. The only time a person, as we always say, wants their file opened is on Rosh Hashanah, right? And that we don't have a choice. Jews, non-Jews get judged, right? Get judged on Rosh Hashanah. So that's the only time. That essentially is the only time that a person wants their file open. So here, what happens? Mr. S, the Satan evil inclination, whatever you want to call him, what does he do? He says, listen, says to God, goes in front of God and says, listen, look what this person did. He's causing someone else pain. Right? He's causing someone else pain. So God says, okay, let's see. Right? Let's look it up. Let's see. Let's see what they're doing. Let's see what their file, let's open their file. Now, a person can say, okay, maybe he didn't do anything wrong, maybe. Right? Whatever they did, they made someone feel bad. Now, if it's not their fault, right? They didn't do something, let's say, ostentatious, certainly something on purpose. Then the question is, how's God going to judge it? Right? But essentially, you made the person feel bad. Right? That's why it's more, it's more severe. So we got to be careful. We got to be careful of other people's feelings. We got to be careful, what the end result, essentially what the end result is. Because essentially, what do I have? Essentially, that you made someone feel bad. Now, one thing, I didn't mention, which I want to mention now, and that is Rav Aaron Cutler, blessed memory. He's the one started the yeshiva of Lakewood, New Jersey. Probably, Lakewood, New Jersey, probably one of the most strongest Jewish communities, in the world, certainly in America, right? That there's no question, growing by leaps and bounds, but anchored by the yeshiva that's there. You got, thousands of students there, and that's the main thrust of the city, of the town there, is that, you got a lot of people sitting and learning. You got, people married learning, whatever. It's a big, it's a big Makom Torah, big place of Torah there. So Rav Aaron brings down, I think I mentioned this once in spiritual group coaching, but Rav Aaron, he brings down by Purim, and is in one of his writings on one of his books on the holidays, right? It speaks about Purim, and he mentions there's the whole thing with what's going on with Purim, and even though we spoke about Amalek last week, right? But how the Jewish people got saved, right, and all that. So he makes a reference he makes some reference. I think he makes a reference to a medrash, if I remember correctly. He makes a reference like this. He talks about Yaakov Avinu and the fact that Yaakov Avinu, quote unquote, steals the blessing. Right now, it's kind of hard to say you steal a blessing. It's not like it's not like you dressed up, bananas and apple. And you say, "Oh, I stole it." Right? No. Right? So, we have to understand also what he did. What he did was based on what his mother told him to do. His mother is a prophetess, right? So she has prophecy. So essentially, she has prophecy. She tells Yaakov what to do. And Yaakov says, if I get caught, he's going to curse me. My father will curse me. So what does she say? She says, don't worry. God forbid if there's a curse, I'll take responsibility. Right? You're not going to get hurt over here. Now, so I'll tell a few interesting things here. One is the medrash that says that when Rivka's pregnant, the Torah says, she goes to inquire what's going on in her stomach. Right? She goes to inquire, see what's going on. And it's like this whole big rumbling, in her stomach, and she's pregnant. So she finds out, she goes to shame, and Shiva Shem and Aver, find out what's going on. And they tell her, you have two nations inside of you fighting. Right, i.e. Esav and Yaakov. Now, it's interesting, it's also brought down that anytime she went by a study hall, we call a base medrash, Yaakov tries to jump up. When she goes by a place of idolatry, Esav tries to jump up. So one side point, it wasn't like, she went into a place of idolatry. I mean, she didn't go within 4 arm lengths of it, but whatever, she went nearby. So Esav tries to jump up, right? He tries to get out. So you have this fight. Who's going to inherit the world, in the spiritual world, in the womb, right? Hard to understand in general. But says the Brisker Rav, says Rav Yisrael Zev bless his memory, Brisker Rav says like this. Brisker Rav says, when a child's in the womb, child's learning Torah, very good. Child's learning Torah from an angel. Angel teaching them. So the Brisker Rav asks, if the angel's teaching you, or in this case, angel's teaching Yaakov, same with Esav also, right? But if the angel's teaching you, why is he trying to get out? Why does he want to escape? Logically, you say, come on, stay as long as you can, learn as much Torah as you can from the angel. Very good. Says the Brisker Rav. Even he says like this. He says, even if you're being taught by an angel, right? You got to hear what he says here. The words are golden here. He says, even if he's being taught by an angel, the fact that he's in the vicinity of a rasha, of an evil person, you still want to get out. That's why he wants to get out. Is there anything greater being taught by an angel? Being Torah by an angel. So, wow, what could be greater than that? But if you're in the vicinity of a rasha, someone who's evil, better to jump out than being taught by an angel. That's what the Brisker Rav says. Now, everyone would agree, even though Esav grows up in the house of Isaac, he understands what angels are. He understands what spirituality is. Nonetheless, he shouldn't get it. It doesn't belong to him. So if an evil person has something sacred, you can take it away from them. For example, if let's say someone evil has a Sefer Torah, has a Torah scroll, you can do whatever it takes to get it. Why? You can use underhanded, I don't know, what do you call it? Whatever you have at your disposal, try and get it. even in illegal ways. Why? It's going to abuse it. Sacred object. Not going to use it properly. So wouldn't it be a mitzvah to take it away from them? Say, oh, but you're stealing. Torah says you're not allowed to steal. Oh, but an evil person, maybe it doesn't apply over here. They're going to use certain things, that are holy for bad things. Who says I can't steal it? Who says I can't take it illegally, even illegally? Big mitzvah to do that. Keep it out of their hands. They're not going to abuse it. Now, based on that, does Esav really deserve the blessing? So obviously Rivka says no. He doesn't deserve it. It really should go to Yaakov. Someone's going to ask $1 million question or $1.5 million question. We'll see. And that is, if that's true, if that is true, why in the world does it go to? Why does Yitzchak want to give it to him? Right? It's another question. Right? A lot of questions here. So let's go to the first part of the question. First part of the question is, or not really part of the question, but Rivka instructs Yaakov what to do. Dress him up like Esav, quote unquote, steal the blessing. Yeah? Because the blessing doesn't belong to Esav. Doesn't belong to Esav. So that's what Yaakov does. And he gets the blessing. It's like a revolving door. He leaves. And then Esav comes in. And Yitzhak gets all confused because, someone just came before you. Right? Who that came before you? And he said, oh, my brother, stepped on me twice, like the second time it happened. So Yitzhak is a little bit assuaged in the sense that, if he gave the blessing to Yaakov, then he really deserves it because Esav already sold it. But people say, come on, Esav son as Yaakov. There's a general rule. Esav hates Yaakov. You say, look what Yaakov did. Poor Uncle Esav stole the blessing. But again, right, let's go to the first point here. And the first point is Rivka's prophecy. Rivka's prophecy. What did he do wrong? What in the world did he do wrong? She told him what to do. Prophecy. That's it. You do what you're told. And then if a prophet comes to you and tells you to do that, an angel comes to you, God comes to you in a dream, a vision, whatever, and you really have prophecy, you have to do what the prophecy says. And you got to get it right, because if you don't get it right, death penalty. But we're not going to get into prophecy here. Right? That's not the topic. What's the point? What's the point over here? Rivka's prophecy. Rivka tells Yaakov what to do. Yitzhak agrees after the fact, right person got the blessing. Very good. Right person got the blessing. But seemingly down the line, Yaakov gets punished. Why does Yaakov get punished? You got to remember, what does Esav do? After he hears that Yaakov got the blessing and he fooled his father, Esav screams out and he cries. He sheds a couple tears. Now, it's also a little bit hard to understand. What's he going to do with spirituality? Esav totally went off. Good question. Why went off? Whatever. But Esav went off. He saw angels himself. He saw his grandfather, saw Abraham, saw his father, saw very righteous people. Hard to imagine somebody like that go so far away. But you see, we have a verse at the end of Deuteronomy. It says, Torah is not a Yerusha, Torah is not an inheritance. Because your father was great spiritually, grandfather was great, go down the line. Who says? You got to acquire it. 3 things are hard to acquire in this world. Torah, Eretz Yisrael, in Olam Haba, in the next world. Torah, we understand. You got to work hard to acquire it. Doesn't just come overnight. Doesn't work by osmosis. No cliff notes. Still looking for them. Haven't found them. You got to roll up your sleeves. It's hard. A lot of work. Right? Day in and day out. You got to review. You got to go through. No one said it's going to be easy. So, Esav goes off. Does terrible things. Terrible things. What happens? Those tears, for whatever they're worth, those tears that he felt bad, there was compassion in it. Esav did this, that, and the other thing, all kinds of terrible things. True. Spit in God's face. True. I mean, grew up in such a household, and that's what happens to him. Okay. That's what we're going to see. I guess the next part here, the evil inclination, how the evil inclination can kill a person, right? Take them out of this world. But again, Esav's got the pedigree. He's got an unbelievable pedigree. Both his parents are righteous, grandfather's righteous, grandmother's righteous. I mean, not just righteous. We're talking like the pillars, pillars of what Judaism is, and what it will be in the future. He's like right there in greatness. And Esav flushes it down the toilet. Desire killed him. Totally killed him. That's why his head got buried in the cave of the patriarchs, but not his body. Because his head, his mind, understood what to do. Understood what the truth was. But his body killed him. Literally. Took him away from Torah. But anyway, I don't want to digress here. Esav cries. Poor Uncle Esav, a couple tears. Look what Yaakov did. Stole the blessing the first time, or he didn't steal it. He took it from him when he was starving, quote unquote. He signed it over to him. And then he steals it. So he's angry, he's hurt. So what did those tears do in heaven? Comes along Rav Aaron Kotler and he says, you know what those tears did? Caused Yaakov problems down the line. Why did it cause problems? Didn't the right person get it? Get the blessing? Yes. Doesn't matter how he got it? Seemingly not. Why Yitzhak wanted to give it to him? Good question. Not necessarily going to address it. But what happened over here? He made Esav feel bad. But this prophecy, Rivka's prophecy. So what if Esav felt bad? I have to have compassion for Esav. Look what he was. Look what he did. To feel bad? He sold it. Right? He sold his birthright. Oh, it's under duress. What connection does he have to his birthright? Those are kind of hard to understand. You want something in spiritual terms? He understands what it is. He understands the power of it. Okay. Why he went off and did what he did? Desire killed him. That's the answer. That's the answer. But again, that's not even the point. The point is, what did these tears do? Says Rav Aaron, these tears, according to heaven, put Yaakov in a bad spot. Why to put Yaakov in a bad spot? Because Esav felt bad, but he didn't really deserve the blessing anyway. Okay. But Yaakov was the conduit to make him feel bad. Forget what he sold. He sold the birthright to him. Okay, it's another issue. He sold it to him legally. Sold it to him. Made him swear. But see this, he did a little bit underhanded, way. So you can say, okay, if he did it in an underhanded way, he still got what he needed. He still got what he deserved. If an evil person has this, i.e., he's got something spiritual in his possession, you can steal it from him. He doesn't deserve it. He's going to abuse it. I don't care what level of knowledge. He's going to abuse it, period. Right? Like, I know somebody had the question, right? I'll just mention this in passing, that he was a scribe, Sofer, and he was asked by a conservative synagogue that they had to say for Torah, a Torah scroll that was puzzled, that was blemished. You had to fix it. There was something, I don't know, some letters mixed up, some words mixed up, whatever it may be. You had to fix it. They asked him to fix it. They couldn't use it. A Sefer Torah that has either, letters messed up. I mean, a lot of laws, the laws of a Sefer Torah. So, however, it was considered that he couldn't use, that the synagogue couldn't use it, and that it was possible, and that it was considered blemished. So they asked his rabbi, will you fix it for us? Because the rabbi told me this many, many years ago. Many, many years ago. I was first in yeshiva. He told me he had this case. They came to him. They want him to fix it and make it a proper Torah scroll, kosher Torah scroll. Right? Remember, if one letter is messed up or something like that, you can't use it. Right? You can have, I don't know, 650,000 letters that are good, one isn't. Right? That invalidates. So an invalid, if you have no other Torah scroll, you still can't use it. Yeah, you can't read from it. So they came to him and wanted to commission him to fix it. Now you can say, what's the problem? Let them use the kosher Torah. This is a problem. This is going to be a problem. Why is it going to be a problem? Because who knows they're going to call up to read it. Right? To be called up to the Torah. Maybe they'll call up women, which is forbidden. Maybe they'll call up children, which is forbidden. Yeah, maybe do other things. Who knows? It'll be a disgrace for the Torah scroll. Total disgrace. So how would you be allowed to do it? The only thing you can say is better they read from a kosher scroll than a non-kosher scroll. Okay, I could hear that. Right? In other words, at least give them the mitzvah reading from a kosher Torah scroll. But on the other hand, if they're going to abuse it and do things that go against what the Torah says, you can't do that. So leave a puzzle. Why do you have to do it? Let someone else do it. Let them find someone else. Right? So there are two sides to the issue. Just want to point out. One side is, you don't fix it. Someone else deal with it. Why should you fix it if they're going to abuse it? And most likely, it doesn't matter what they know, what they don't know. They're going to abuse it. They will abuse it. So now, that's one side of the issue. The other side of the issue is, no. What's the problem? Let them have a kosher Sefer Torah. At least if they're going to read it, regardless who reads it, regardless who they call up to the Torah, doesn't really matter. The fact they have a kosher Sefer Torah, what's the problem? Why shouldn't they be allowed to fix it? I like the first reason better. Right? Not to be a fanatic for the sake of being a fanatic here. Right? But the idea is, they're going to mess things up anyway. And they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. Why should I help them? Why in their world, right? Why in the world would that be a mitzvah? Be a mitzvah to help them. Right? Why would that be a mitzvah to help them? Now, so I would say it shouldn't be allowed. 100% shouldn't be allowed. So, now, let's go back to what happened to Yaakov and Esav. So says Rav Aaron, Esav didn't deserve the blessing. We all agree, didn't deserve the blessing. He didn't deserve the blessing, and he's given he's quote unquote steals the blessing. Yaakov steals the blessing from Esav. But his mother told him to do it. if his mother has prophecy, and that's what God essentially is telling him to do, or is telling her to do, then there shouldn't be anything wrong. So it could be God's telling her, Yaakov should get the blessing. Make sure Yaakov gets the blessing. He's the one that's getting the blessing. Now, it could be that she shouldn't have dressed him up. She should have done it in a different way. Spoken to Yitzhak about it, and convinced him that Yaakov should get the blessing. But the fact, says Rav Aaron, this is the point. Says Rav Aaron, the fact that Yaakov was the conduit to make Esav feel bad. He was the conduit to make him feel bad. But he listened to his mother. His mother had prophecy. So again, technically speaking, he didn't do anything wrong. He's listening to what God said. Right? Again, maybe she could have done it a different way. Maybe this is the reason. If it would be done in a different way, where Esav didn't feel bad. So it could be you knocked the whole thing out and this wouldn't be an issue. But that didn't happen. So she did it in an underhanded way. Right? She did it in a way that maybe she shouldn't have. Okay, let's say. Now, even if that's true, right? Even if that's true, what do we see? The fact that Yaakov was the one that made him feel bad, so he's going to get punished. Or his offspring are going to get punished for what he did. Mind-boggling idea. Because everybody would say he didn't do anything wrong. He did nothing wrong. But the fact through what he ended up doing, even though he listened to his mother, even though she had prophecy, it made good old Uncle Esav feel bad. And it even made him cry and shed a few tears. Because of that, he's dealt with in a harsh way. That's what Rav Aaron says. So to make someone feel bad, even if you didn't do it directly, even if it wasn't your intention, but the person felt bad, according to heaven, that's a problem. It's a serious problem. I'll take it one step further. Dina gets taken by Shechem. And there's no question what happened over here. Why? She went out, see people in the land or whatever. Okay. She's curious, want to see what goes on in the world. Okay. What happened? She gets abused by Shechem. So Medrash says, what happened? Why did this happen to Yaakov? He had a lot of sorrows in his life. He had a lot of suffering. Went through a lot of suffering. They say, says the Medrash, when he confronted Esav, and Esav's 400 men, he hid Dinah in a box. Why did he hide her in a box? Because he didn't want Esav to look at her and want to marry her. Now, wasn't Dinah strong enough in her education? That way Yaakov educated her, that maybe she could have brought Esav back to Torah? Maybe she could have worked on him, got him to repent. He's held accountable for that. Mind-boggling. The mind-boggling thing also. This scum of the earth, so to speak. Yaakov has to send his daughter. He has to send his daughter to marry him. That makes sense logically. So he said, I don't want Esav even looking at her. I don't even want him looking at her to think that she might even be available to him. That's what he thought of his brother. Okay, makes sense. But there's a claim against him. Again, you're talking about great, great people here. So, the claim is very hard to understand. Simple explanation and whatever. It's very hard to understand. He's taken a task because maybe she could have turned him around. Not that she's going to listen to him and go, and help him go in his bad ways and this and that. No. she could have turned him around potentially. So because she didn't even have that opportunity, Yaakov gets punished, and that's what happens to her, according to the Medrash. So back to our case here. The evil eye, jealousy. Jealousy can take a person out of this world. What do we see from Yaakov? Says Rav Aaron, even if he didn't have intention to do it. Even if you were just used, whatever, you did something and it made someone feel jealous later, whatever it may be. You're the one who caused the problem. So the fact that you're the one that caused the problem, comes along Mr. S and says, God, let's open this file. Ruvain made Shimon feel bad over here. So God says, okay, let's see. I don't want any of my creatures to feel bad. Any of my creation. Let's see if he's got a claim. Let's see if he's got a claim or not. If he's got a good claim, Shimon is in trouble. Shimon be in serious trouble. If he doesn't have a claim, life goes on. Life goes on as normal. But he's going to investigate. He's going to see what the person do. How did they do it? What was their intention? Right? He's going to see that. Right? Totally see that. So, essentially, what do I have? That God will look at it and judge it as he does. So if the person's innocent in what they did, good. Nothing happens. But if it caused them to be jealous for whatever reason, and they were the conduit to do it, and they made them feel bad, even if it wasn't their intention, it could be serious payback. The evil eye, the Gemara says, 99% people die from it. That's how they die. Right? God takes them because of that. Now, some would say, if you don't believe in it, it doesn't have the same effect. Okay. This is the severity. This is the severity of making someone jealous in any case. We see from Rav Aaron, even if you didn't have intention, it was never your intention. But a person can say, Yaakov's dressing up, and Rivka's dressing him up, even if he's listening to his mother. Doesn't he know he might feel bad? Doesn't he know? Doesn't he feel bad? Should feel bad. His brother's going to feel bad. Where's his compassion? How can he do it in such a way? So you got to see the dynamics here. What does he tell his mother? He tells his mother, I don't want to pay the price for my father's curse. He understands the power of a curse, but he doesn't want to pay the price. So his mother says, don't worry about it. If there's a problem, I'll take the fall. That's what Rivka says. I'll take the fall. But what didn't Yaakov ask? What did he not ask? Yaakov did not ask, how is it going to affect my brother? How is it going to affect my brother? That he didn't ask. Very interesting, he didn't ask that. But what did he understand? He understood regardless, it's really not my problem. He wants something that belongs to him. He's going to feel bad. Why should I worry about it? Why should I even think about it? My mother's telling me to do something, right? She has prophecy. What's the issue? So maybe there's a claim. some small claim. You should have more compassion. Look how bad his brother might feel in the end. Maybe you should have more compassion for any one of us. I don't know if we'd be taking a task that much. Person's evil, they don't care, whatever. Don't worry what they're going to think. Even if they feel bad. Maybe that's on Yaakov's level. On our level, why do we have to feel bad? We have to have compassion up to that point. Right? Food for thought. Maybe Rav Aaron say, yeah, even if he had no intention, if the person felt bad through something you did, even if it wasn't your intention, says Rav Aaron, you see, according to this, you're held accountable. You are going to be held accountable. You're going to say, but how can I foresee that? How can I foresee something's going to be, down the line? How can I see that? So what's the answer? Look at how our deeds are measured in the eyes of heaven. See, if it's something you did, you end up doing it, these are going to be repercussions for this, different issue. It's something you could have foreseen, let's say. If it's something that, in 10 lifetimes, you never would have seen the repercussions, I have to worry about it? I have to be that much more careful? Why? Why do I have to be that much more careful? You had no intention. So what is Rav Aaron telling you? You got to be careful anyway. You got to think of all these different scenarios. What might happen? What could happen? And see, there could be unbelievable repercussions. Tremendous repercussions. Down the line. You should have thought about it more. Again, let's say someone did. Right? We'll just flush this out for a second. Let's say somebody did. Even if somebody did, would they have come to this conclusion that something would have happened like this? So you see, under owners, they had no intention. They had zero intention. And they checked out all the different scenarios. None of this came up. They could still be held accountable. That's how far judgment goes. That's how far it goes. You make someone feel bad, even you had no intention. Even if you're listening to Das Torah, even if you listen to rabbinic authority, the rabbinic authority says this is what you have to do. Right? Let's say parents get upset. Parents get offended. I get this question all the time. Yeah? Parents get offended. Okay. Gotta honor my parents. Okay. But there are things you can't do. Right? As a Jew, if they tell you that's a great Shabbos, you don't listen to them. Pause the command not to listen to them. They're going to feel bad or whatever. Like someone tells me, the parent said, come on, isn't honoring, one of the 10 commandments to honor your parents? Okay. But if a parent tells you that's a great Shabbos, you don't listen to them. You're right. You got to honor them. But honoring them is not listening. And they get upset. And they get angry. Right? And they say you're a fanatic and all that. If you do it in a nice way, say, listen, there's nothing personal. You're not trying to offend them. You do whatever you can. And they still get offended, that's not your problem. You're listening to what the Torah says. Right? You're listening to what the Torah says. Now, you might not come out smelling like a rose. They may be very upset about it. Okay. But in the end of the day, you listen to what the Torah says. And you never lose by listening to what the Torah says. Even if it looks bad. Right? The Choshen Mishna says, right? It says in Duties of the Heart, even if something looks really bad, it says in Shar Bechina, even if things look bad and look really bad, they're not so bad. It's just our perception, right? The example he gives, guy's sleeping by a wall, and a dog comes by to relieve itself. The person's like, oh, disgusting. I gotta go clean, get cleaned up or whatever. Feels really, gross by what happened. We won't go in the messy details there. Right? It feels absolutely gross. So what does he do? He gets up and says, I can't believe I have to do this. And to get up, change, whatever, shower, change, whatever. And he comes back and he says to people that were there by the wall, no one's there anymore. What happened? The wall collapsed. Everyone died. He's the only one left standing, no pun intended. Well, didn't the scenario that we just pictured, didn't the guy, didn't this person say, oh, it's so disgusting, I got to change? Yeah. But that saved his life. Had he been there longer, he would have died also. Wall would have collapsed on him also. So it's a question of perception. Question how we see it. Many things, spoken about this many times. Many things we see, we don't understand. We don't understand. But in the end, turn out good. Turn out the way we didn't expect. When some things look really bad, you gotta say, where's the good in this? Where can I find the good in this? Yeah, where's the measure for measure? Right? What do we always say? We always say, you'll never see the measure for measure. Very hard to see. Moses wants to see measure for measure. God says, no one can see my face and live. God says, I'll show you my back. Very good. But he can't see it in front of your face. Even down the line, maybe God will throw you a proverbial bone to show you something. Why we had to go through this led to this, that led to that, something else led to something else. Very good. Yeah, but you don't understand. The beginning, you don't understand. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I've seen it many times. Now, in my own life, other people's lives. So you don't know. Right? You don't know. But what looks really bad, who says bad? In the end. Right? It can turn out very different. As Roosevelt said. All right, let's go to some questions here. Somebody asks, what is the difference between sects of Judaism when it comes to who reads the scroll? If they know it properly. So, if you're Reform or conservative, they won't have any problem with a woman reading. It should only be a man over the age of bar mitzvah. Yeah, not a woman. Now, why? Why do we discriminate against women over here? Very simple. Women are not obligated in mitzvahs that are bound by time. Prayer is something that is bound by time. Right? Certain times you pray, how many times a day? Right? Women are exempt. Now, we do hold they should pray at least once a day, or let's say twice a day. Right? Many would say even twice a day. But they're not obligated to certainly pray with a minyan, pray with 10 men. Right? So everyone says, but you have 10 men praying there. That's not the point. Even if you have 10 men there. Even if you have 10 men there, a woman can't read. Why not? Because she's not bound by it. She doesn't have an obligation to pray with 10 men. She cannot fulfill the obligation of other men to hear the Torah. Even though you're going to tell me, or someone will tell me, it's a decree. It was a decree made by Ezra. You should hear the Torah 3 times during the week. Right? That's Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos. Right? So it's a decree by Ezra. Very good. But going to synagogue, on Shabbos, there's no obligation whatsoever by a woman. None. She wants to go? Great. No problem. But to fulfill someone's obligation, let's say to hear the Torah, she can't do that. She doesn't have the same obligation. Right? She wouldn't have the same obligation. Now, if you're going to talk about a Reform and conservative Jew, which say, the movements are different. They started out differently, but I wouldn't say they're much different today. They accept gay rabbis, women rabbis, all kinds of other things that go against the Torah. So you might say conservatives like 5-10 years behind Reform. I don't think they're that far behind, but they started off very differently. Either case, even if you have 10 men there, let's take it another step further. They don't keep Shabbos the way they should. So if they desecrate Shabbos in public, let's say, which many of them do, no matter why, but they desecrate Shabbos in public, they would have the status of a non-Jew, unless they repent. Right? It's one of the worst transgressions a Jew can do. Now, I would ask the question, if they have the since they deny God, they deny the Torah because, Shabbos, we say Kiddush Friday night, we read Genesis chapter 2, that God created Shabbos and God rested on Shabbos, right? So if you don't keep Shabbos properly, you desecrate Shabbos in public, then you have a status of a non-Jew. So if that's true, right, we're going to take that further. If that is true, how can a non-Jew fulfill anyone's obligation? Let's say better. How can a non-Jew fulfill a Jew's obligation? Even if they can read Torah. Let's say they can read Torah. Let's say they read it very well. So they're invalid. If they're invalid, you can't fulfill your obligation. You're going to tell me, big deal, it's only a decree by Ezra. Yeah, it's only a decree by Ezra. Okay. But that's what we do. That's what the halacha is. You read the Torah three times a week if you have 10 men. So you tell me, okay, let's say you have 10 kosher Jews there, which you won't. But let's say if you had 10 kosher Jews and a kosher Jew reading it, would that be a problem? So that seemingly wouldn't be a problem. That would be okay, right? But, in these congregations, they have mixed seating. So even if you have 10 kosher Jews there, you got women there, which is a problem. Should be separate. So how could you read it in front of a mixed crowd? Even if you fulfill these other things, still a problem. Right? Still a problem. So in a Reform or conservative synagogue, they could have a woman read. That's not going to bother them. That would bother us. Right? And again, the main reason is because they can't fulfill someone else's obligation if they're not obligated themselves. It would be no different if you had a child read. Child's not obligated. Same, let's say he's a kosher Jew, he's not obligated. If he would read the Torah, there's no one else to read the Torah, he reads the Torah. Did anyone fulfill their obligation? No. They don't fulfill their obligation. Well, isn't it better to do it that way than no way? And what's Kaufman's law? Either you do it right, or you don't bother. Right? You don't make a travesty of a mockery of a sham of it. Right? Right? So therefore, they'll be disqualified. I get this question also. Let's say there is a Reform or conservative conversion. Yeah. So the same problem. You get the same problem. And the problem is the rabbis serving on the rabbinical court probably don't keep Shabbos. If they don't keep Shabbos, they have the status of a non-Jew. If they have the status of a non-Jew, even if the person 100% took on the mitzvahs, and their goal was to keep Torah mitzvahs, they're disqualified. The rabbinical court itself is disqualified. So that doesn't help. I mean, not to mention they probably won't know what they need to know anyway, but let's say, right, I'm in a generous mood. Let's say they would learn properly what they need to learn. They know all the halachas they need to know. Okay. Yeah, they won't, but let's say they do. And they go in front of people that are disqualified. Right? Even better. Right? Even better. You have two brothers on the same court. Can two brothers serve? Right? You have different ways to disqualify rabbinic court judges. That's not the topic here. There are different ways to disqualify them. If they're disqualified, it's not a rabbinical court. Doesn't matter you have three people there. Does not have the status of a rabbinical court. If it doesn't have the status of a rabbinical court, then you haven't done anything. Doesn't matter what their level of knowledge is. You didn't do what you're supposed to do. You got to remember, Kaufman would say that you cannot turn the Torah into a pretzel. Can't do that. Right? There are laws. There are ways to derive the laws. There are ways of understanding the laws. Very good. But you got to do it right. If you don't do it right, you run into problems. People cut corners. People do other things. In this case, you have people who don't believe in God. But certainly not the way we do. right? And someone like that, how could you answer amen to their blessing? They make a blessing, regardless of what they know, what they don't know. It's a question. It's not just, we're being fanatics here to be fanatics and put them down. But, if they deny God and so many other things, how can I answer amen to their blessing? Right? Simple. They desecrate Shabbos in public. Make it very easy. They desecrate Shabbos in public. They don't think you have to keep Shabbos, whatever it is. They're denying God. How can I answer amen to their blessing? Now, some would say, well, if you're involved in Jewish outreach, they have a Tinok Shanishba, right? They did like they were captured by non-Jews, right? It's kind of like being a potato farmer in Idaho. No offense. Anyone's a potato farmer grew up in Idaho, right? They grew up knowing nothing of nothing. They're not doing a rebellion against God. They don't know. Right? So obviously you want to encourage them. You call them to the Torah, whatever. Give them different honors. You could answer amen to their blessing. That's what people would say. You could answer amen. So again, this is a big topic. This is a very, very big topic. But, there are rabbinic authorities, no question, would say you can't. Until they're observant, you cannot answer amen to the blessing. Right? You just can't. The Torah is not silly putty. The Torah is not, I feel like doing, I don't feel like doing, I can make up any rules I want. The question is how far you go to draw someone close and what they're allowed to do. This is complex. Right? I just want to point this out. It's complex. It's not an open and shut case. There are different categories here. Different categories, what knowledge they have, different, not every case is going to be the same. And how we look at them, you want to draw them close. Can you call them up to the Torah? Can you give them honors? This is a big question. It's a big question. But the point over here is, if I have somebody who's disqualified or cannot fulfill someone else's obligation, then I'm not allowed to do that. And in this case, if you have someone desecrate Shabbos, he cannot fulfill your obligation. If you have somebody, let's say that's a woman, she can't fulfill your obligation. She's not obligated. It's not a we're not taking a jab at women here, right? So to speak. She can't do it. She doesn't have the same obligation. If she doesn't have the same obligation, how can she fulfill someone else's obligation? How can she fulfill a man's obligation? Grace after meals, very good case. Grace after meals, if she ate enough bread, let's say, I don't know, let's say there was a guy there couldn't say the words, whatever. She says, hey, I'll fulfill your obligation. You answer amen to my blessings, right? Shemia Kalina, you hear all the words. You answer amen. You have intention. I have intention. Let's just say for argument's sake, it works. Very good. What's the problem? What's the problem over here? There's a whole question what her obligation is in grace after meal. Is it on a Torah level or is it on a rabbinic level? It's a very, very big discussion. It's not conclusive. The Gemara ends not being conclusive. Goes both ways. Some say yes, some say no, back and forth, not conclusive. Everybody agrees she's got an obligation to say if she ate enough bread. She got an obligation to say grace after meals. Okay. But there are certain things, whether it's on a rabbinic level or Torah level. If it's on a Torah level, then she could fulfill someone's obligation, even a man. Okay. If it's on a rabbinic level, she can't. She doesn't have the same obligation. She doesn't have the same level of obligation. So if that's the case, and again, it's a technical issue here. No one's saying she can't say grace after meals. The only question is, can she fulfill someone else? Can she fulfill a man's obligation? Or someone that has an obligation on the Torah level? And the answer is no. She can. Not necessarily about embarrassing the person and modesty and all that. We're not even talking about that. Not modesty issues. There's another issue, but that's not the main point. The main point is she doesn't have the same obligation. If she doesn't have the same obligation, she can't do it. She can do it for herself. Very good. She can't do it for anyone else. Because anyone else, let's say a guy, she cannot, he's got a Torah obligation. She may not. But you could say, maybe she does. Maybe according to the other side, she has a Torah obligation. Very good, but it's inconclusive. If it's inconclusive, it's inconclusive. So therefore we say she can't. Yeah. Let me see other questions here. When he traded his right for food. Talking about Esav here. Okay. Was only his double portion or his entire portion? Entire portion. Right? He says, Yaakov says, sell me your birthright. So when Yaakov said, sell me, I should have made this clear, but sell me your birthright, it meant the entire birthright. That's what it meant. His entire birthright. And he sold it. And he sold it. Now, the question would have been, if he'd already sold it, what would have happened if Isaac actually gave it to him? So now you got a contradiction, see what it's going to be. But when Isaac gives the blessing to Yaakov and Esav screams, and he says, my brother fooled me, this is the second time, then Yitzchak understood that he gave the right person the blessing. Then he understood Yaakov was supposed to get the blessing. Had it gone the other way, it would have been a very interesting discussion. He already sold it. If he already sold his birthright, Yitzchak can't sell it to him. It's gone. Right? Essentially, it's gone. Or you say that whatever Esav did, it had no merit. Yeah, it was under duress, let's say. So then if Yitzchak sold it, gave it to him, let's say, he gave it to him, then maybe what happened before gets erased. Right? I mean, you have to come on to some other conclusion here, why that sale wasn't really a good sale. But he can say, come on, he gave his bowl of lentils was his portion of the world to come, was the spiritual portion of the world to come. So you're going to say, but there's no kinyan, there's no acquisition. There's only an acquisition by words. It's not so simple. Right? I give a class once a week or twice a week on doing the laws of damages, doing about laws of loans. So there's a whole question by a loan in general. Let's say Reuven admits to Shimon he owes him $100. He says he owes him $100. If he does it in front of witnesses and they write it down, they give over a document, good. Now there's a question. He says, you are my witnesses. Does he have to say you are my witnesses or not? Right? So it gets more complex. But there's another case. If he says, I owe you money, Reuven says to Shimon, he owes him money. He owes him $100. If he owes him $100, there are no witnesses, let's say. There's no documents. It's only what we call a mira ba'alma. It's only words in general. How can you have where's the acquisition? There's no acquisition. You can't have acquisition on words. How do you have acquisition on words? Tell me, you tell me, let's say, person acquired, I don't know, a ming vase from somebody. How'd you acquire it? Maybe you gave money. Maybe you gave him a check. Maybe you picked it up and acquired. You have to do something to acquire it. Some level of acquisition, different levels of acquisition according to the Torah. That's not the topic here, but there are different acquisitions, different ways to acquire. Very good. If Reuven says to Shimon that he acquired money from, that he owes him 100, does the fact that he says he owes him 100 obligate him? Because you're going to say it's Meshabed himself. He gives himself over. He says, I owe him 100. So why is he saying, oh, no, I'm just kidding. What do you mean just kidding? He admitted he owes him 100. If he admitted he owes him 100, he probably owes him 100. Yeah, but the question the commentaries ask is, does he have witnesses? Did he write over documents? If he says it in general, where's the acquisition? What is making this thing a legitimate sale? You don't have a sale. There's no sale here, so that's a problem. Now, in this case, you can have the same thing. That Yaakov says, sell me a birthright. Sell me a birthright in exchange for this bowl of lentils. Yeah. So he says, I'll sell it now. Yaakov picks out the bowl of lentils. He acquires it, gives it to Esav. Very good. But you can ask the same question. Just because he says, I swear I'm going to sell, I'm going to sell my birthrights, doesn't mean anything. Maybe. Right? Yeah, there's no witnesses here. It's only between Yaakov and Esau. So the whole question how that works, right? And that's one of the things in our case of a loan. Reuven says he owes 100 Shimon. Very good. He says he owes him 100. And he says it between themselves, no witnesses. So many say that's nothing. The question is, why is he saying it? Right? Because he easily could say, I was just kidding. But why would someone obligate themselves if they didn't owe the money? Right? That's the obvious question. So over here, you can say the same thing. He swears, Esau swears. What's he swearing on? How does it unfold? How does it work with an acquisition? How does so you got to say it's in spiritual terms. How can he acquire something in spiritual terms? Very good. Yeah. Maybe tell me how to write a document. Maybe you have to tell me it's like maybe a Kenyan suitor where he takes an acquisition with something. He takes, I don't know, he takes a pen and he lifts it up. He says, this is my Om Haba. This is my portion of the world to come, or spirituality, right? He says, here. He says, here, lift this up. That's your acquisition. Right? Can work like that. Right? But you'd ask the question, where's the level of acquisition? All he said was, I swear. A verbal agreement, does a verbal agreement have any weight? Right? It's a whole other discussion. A person makes an agreement, they don't write it down on paper, no witnesses. Right? What could the other, then the other side takes on court and says, hey, you agreed to buy this. No, I'm just kidding. Or maybe you have to pay damages. He said, listen, I could have sold it to someone else. I held on to it because you said you're going to buy it. So that could be a person has to pay a certain level of damage. But a verbal agreement in general, your word's just as good as someone else. You have to bring proof. Why you think that he agreed? You have no documentation. Zero documentation. So you do have in the diamond industry, I don't know if it's still true today, but in the diamond industry, how do they seal a deal? No contracts. How do they seal a deal? Handshake. Now, if one reneges on the other, that person can take him to court and say, listen, this is the way we acquire things. Everybody in the diamond business does this. We had a handshake. He shook my hand. He agreed to buy it. So that he could have a claim. Right? Again, you have to prove it, and they had negotiations and different things, whatever. But, Shimon over here comes and says, I didn't shake your hand. Right now we got cameras, right? So let's say you got cameras. Okay, then he's guilty. Right? Because he's, it's recorded. But if it wasn't recorded, then what happens? Right? Reuven can say, come on, I was going to sell it to someone else. I didn't sell it to someone else because you agreed. Said, nah, I didn't agree. I was just kidding. You're just kidding? But a handshake is everything. Yes, it could be in a field where, a handshake is just as good as signing on the document. It's as if you signed on the document. That's it. He's guilty. He's got to pay. Now, if it's something not like that, okay. Maybe it will be written, it won't be written. So, in the case I'm giving, class on a couple times a week, that there's a whole discussion. There's a whole discussion. What's going to be written down? Was it passed over? Where are the witnesses? Did he say these are my witnesses? And it's complicated. So you got to look at the Torah also. You can't read it like a newspaper. You can ask the question. Okay, he says, sell me your birthright. He says, okay, swear. So he swears. How did he acquire his birthright? Where is the acquisition over here? Yeah, everyone agrees according to the Torah. He sold it. Right? He gave it over. Whatever that means. But how did he do it? How did he do it according to the Torah? How did it work? Right? That's the question. So, in this case, someone has tried his right. He's tried his thing, his birthright, for a bowl of lentils. Right? Very good. So he sold it. He sold the whole thing, not part of it. Sold the entire thing. Right? So he shouldn't have a portion. Should not have anything. And then when Yitzhak heard what happened after Esau comes, and he says he got swindled the second time, he got swindled, Yitzhak understood it was supposed to go to Yaakov. Right? So what he did was okay. But the problem was Yaakov made Esav feel bad, even though his mother told him. That was the whole discussion we had before. So it sounds like he stole the birthright, had to listen to the prophet. The other one's supposed to steal it. The question is like this. Question is, maybe Rivka's taking a task, even though she had prophecy. Maybe she should have devised another way for him to take it. Not in an underhanded way. The fact that it was done in an underhanded way, that made Esav feel bad. Yaakov gets punished. Yaakov gets punished. But again, even if he takes it, who says he gives it back later? You're not giving it back. He swore to him that he's selling it. He sold it. Right? He 100% he sold it. Why is he going to give it back? Why would he give it back? Would make sense for him to give it back. Yeah, the question would be on the other side. That would be the question. What would happen? What would happen if Isaac actually gave it to him? Yeah, let's say he gave it to him. How can he give how can the blessing be given over twice? So something has to change. So that would be a whole discussion. Do we say really what Esav did was under duress, and therefore it's not a really good acquisition, and therefore whatever happened was nullified? So really Yaakov had nothing, and then Yitzchak comes along and gives the blessing. Right? The question is, how is it going to work? How exactly is it going to work? He ain't getting it back. That's the whole point. Right? You can tell me maybe somehow Isaac can nullify it. I don't know. Maybe he can nullify what Yaakov did. And therefore give to Esav what he really deserves. Maybe it wasn't the argument say, he was starving. Yaakov made him sign. Right? He signed under duress. Let's say we had this case, I meant this last week. Person selling a property, yeah? Reuben wants to buy property from Shimon. Shimon doesn't want to sign. Shimon says, I'm not selling this. Reuben's a tough guy. What does he do? He hangs Shimon over a cliff. Says, Shimon, you want to sign? He goes, no. He's about to let go. Shimon says, I'll sign, even if he gives him full price. Shimon says, I'll sign. Shimon signs, the property belongs to Reuben. Very good. Now, Shimon, when he signs, what's the only reason he's signing? Because he's under duress. Right? He's about to be hung over a cliff. He's under duress. Okay. Shimon signs. Did he have intention? That's what the rabbinical court is going to ask him. Did you have intention to sign to Reuben, to give over your property to Reuben? He'll say yes. But my intention was, if I can ever get it away from him, I will. But that's not the question. I had this question once I was learning this. What if he had negative intention? He says, yeah, I did have intention to sell it, but I only sold under duress. I would have gone after him if I could, if I had, police protection. I would go after him, but I can't. So the rabbinical court's going to ask him, did you sign the document with full intention to sell away your property? Yes or no? And what is he going to have to say? Yes. It's a good sale. Everyone's going to tell me, come on, it's duress. We signed it under duress, been hung over a cliff. Yeah, very good. Is it a good sale? Good sale. Halacha is, it's a good sale. Maybe what Reuven did wasn't good. For sure not. Hanging a guy over a cliff to try and get his property. Yeah, that's not good, but is it a good sale in the end? It's a good sale. There's a lot written on this, on this topic, but in general, should be a good sale because he was what we call Gemara Makna. He had full intention to have that field acquired. Right? That sale's a good sale. He's being hung over a cliff, so what? The end of the day, his intention was to sell it. That was his intention. 100% to sell it. So, why should he get it back? Why in the world should he get it back? He sold it. He sold his birthright. Again, what's the question? How did he sell it? That's a question. Very good. But let's say it's a good sale, and now Yaakov gets it. Okay. He has to give it back. Why does he have to give it back? The only question is, what does Yitzhak say over here? Yeah. If Yitzhak says, well, he's under duress, he never should have done that, I nullify the transaction. Maybe he's got the power to do that. That'd be an interesting question. Maybe he's got the power to do it. If he's got the power to do it, then what Yaakov did gets uprooted. Right? Good question how that works. Right? Okay. Food for thought. Maybe he can uproot it. But who says? If that's like a regular sale, he sold it. He sold it. He sold it. Nothing Yitzhak can do. His hands are tied. No pun intended. He can't undo it. Maybe it's the way he could. I don't know. I'll have to think about it more. But he sold it. If he sold it, how can he undo it? Right? Unless you say that when Esav sold, when he sold it, he was under tremendous duress, under stress. So it should be a bad sale. Forget about how it was, what the acquisition was. That doesn't matter. If he's under duress, maybe we throw the whole thing out and say, no, he was under duress. Maybe it's going to come and say, no, that's not the way to do it. You don't sell it under duress. I'm going to give it to you. Maybe. Same way once he's done and he swears, it's, once the person swears, it's proper, he takes a proper oath, let's say, the only way you can undo it is if there was a mistake, some sort of mistake, right? Some serious mistake. Yeah. But if he sold willingly, same thing if it'd be held over a cliff, it's legal. He sold it willingly. No matter he's starving, whatever. He sold it. People, is that any different? Let's say, person has a piece of property. They're about to be foreclosed. Yeah. So at least they want to get something for it. They don't want the bank to take it. Someone comes, makes a low ball offer. Takes it. Because he asked. After the sale is over, and he got the money, he's going to say, I want more money. He sold it. He had no choice. Right? Seemingly he has no choice. You got a low ball offer. He took it. Better get something than nothing. Okay. Now you're going to come back and say he deserves it? Why does he deserve it? He sold it. Somebody asks, is it true one can say, I was just kidding to get out of the contract? Sure. It depends. In this case, the case where you could say that is that if Shimon says he owes 100 to Reuven. Yeah, he obligates himself and he says he owes 100 to Reuven. Now, Reuven knows he doesn't owe him 100. Witnesses know he doesn't owe him 100. So that's a mistake. That's a clear-cut mistake. But if he says in this case that he agrees to pay Reuven 100, there are no witnesses and no document. He could say, to get out of it, he could say, I was just kidding. Now, there's a difference of opinion on this. Some say he's got a legitimate claim. He could just say he was just kidding. Why'd he say it? I don't know. He's fooling around. Oh, Reuven, I owe you 100. Yeah? He's just blowing smoke. But he really doesn't. He's only kidding. Others say once he opened up his mouth and he obligated himself, why would someone open their mouth and obligate themselves if they were just kidding? But the halacha comes out, there's a difference of opinion here, but the halacha comes out that if he says he owes him the money, he's got to pay. Can't say he was just kidding. Now, if they find out it was a mistake, and Reuven says he doesn't owe the money, whatever, okay. But in general, if that would be the case, he's liable. 100% he'd be liable. But again, there's a difference of opinion, but we hold according to that opinion be liable. Seemingly, it should be liable. Could it be Asa was more capable of survival? Could it be he was more capable of survival? So let's say like this. Let's go to the question: Why did Yitzchak want to give the blessing to him in the first place? Seemingly, you're talking about a spiritual blessing. The spiritual blessing did not need to go to Yaakov. Yaakov was an oiv, a Yoshev oilim, right? He sat in the tent. What does it mean he sat in the tent? He learned. He spent his whole life learning. That's what he was doing. So he didn't need the blessing of spirituality. He already had it. So what's he going to give it to him for? He already has it. Strengthen him more. Yeah, he already had it. Why do you want to give it? What's one reason? Possible reason. He wanted to give it to Esau because Esau needed strength. He needed spiritual strength. Yaakov didn't need it. Doesn't matter whether Esau deserved it or not. He wanted to strengthen in spiritual terms. So Yitzhak gave it to him, or was going to give it to him, because he understood he needed it more. Yaakov didn't need it. Okay. Someone asked, could it be, okay, back to the question here, was Esau more capable of survival? I don't know, Yaakov was able to survive pretty well also. You know, when he comes to the well and, the well was stuffed up, no one could open it. Right? All the shepherds, whatever, they couldn't open it. They couldn't take the rock off. Yeah, Yaakov came and and Rashi says, and others say, he took it off like like he would take off like a soda cap. Yeah, he took off something like just pluck it off. He just plucked it off. Yeah, so he's very powerful, extremely powerful. Right? He had a lot of strength. So, you got to remember also, he took care of Laban's flocks, for 7 years, never lost one, no one ever got killed. I mean, he understands survival. Right? He's just as equal to Esau, in that sense. Esau was weak. Where was he weak? He was weak in the next part of the Mishnah, right? Which we're not going to get to today, but he was weak in the sense of his what? Of his evil inclination. His evil inclination destroyed him. That's where he was weak. It's not a question of physical survival. Esau remembers a hunter. Yeah. There are two ways to look at it. Either he hunted like we understand a person hunts animals, or we look at it that he hunted in the sense that, he tried to trap women, in that sense. So he was a hunter in that way also. But, Yaakov also had level of survival. So also capable of survival. You could say, okay, when a person's under duress, they do different things. They may do different things because they just want to get out of the situation. Now, if someone, let's say, is really dying of thirst, or dying of hunger, they can become delirious. They can absolutely become delirious. Now, we're not saying Esau over here was delirious. Yeah, but he felt like he was starving. He felt like he's going to collapse or whatever. Right? So, question was, is that really true? That he was like about to drop dead? Or he just felt like that? There's a big difference. So the idea is, like, he felt like that. Okay. He wasn't going to die. He wasn't going to die, but he felt like, comes out from the field, rummaging and pillaging and doing all this stuff. Like, it's totally exhausted. Oh, give me some of that red stuff. Like, I feel like I'm going to die. Imagine a person, they work out. They work out hard. They're hungry. They're thirsty. That mean they're going to drop dead at the moment? No. Doesn't necessarily mean that. Right? But he thought. That's what he thought. I mean, not that he was going to die, but the idea is it's not the fact that physical strength is waning and he's about to enter the next world, right? It means that his resolve of the next world doesn't mean anything to him, or means very little, right? That's really the point. Not a question of survival or not. The question is, he's willing to give up his portion in the world to come for a bowl of lentils. That's what it's worth it to him. Give me this red stuff. Feed me this red stuff. Yeah. So he thinks he's willing to trade, future spirituality for the sake of a bowl of lentils. That just means the spiritual world not that important to him. He thinks he's going to die or he's struggling and this and that. He says, what's it worth it to me anyway? Because in the end of that chapter, what does it say? Or the end of that story, what does it say? It says he despised his birthright. But didn't he despise it anyway? Didn't he not want it? Didn't he just want to throw it away for a bowl of lentils? This is hard to understand. He grew up in the house of Isaac. How can he want to just throw it away? Because desire killed him. Desire essentially killed him. But he's willing to give it away for nothing. That is the point of the story. Not just, survival, this, that's not the point. The point of the story is that he was willing to give up spirituality for nothing. So my Rebbe would say on that, we do the same thing. We waste time, we do other things, and every second a person can learn, right? If they have time, right? A person, if they're reading over Torah, can say 200 words in a minute, 200 mitzvahs, every word's a mitzvah. Then we waste time, we get busy, we get carried away, we do other things, right? So also, we do the same thing. We're willing to give up spirituality for what? A ball game? For what? We also waste plenty of time. That's the point. He's willing to give up all spirituality. Even though he understands what it is and he saw angels and all that, he's willing to get up for a bowl of lentils. Mind-boggling. But he understands what it is. It's clear to him what it is. But he's willing to give it up for nothing. That's why giving under duress is a good deal. Listen, duress makes a person do things they probably shouldn't do. Or they won't do. A person doesn't know how to deal with stress. But in general, everything's a test, as we always say. It's a test. Right? So when it says Ruvain part sounds like theft. Well, sounds like theft, right? He has desire for someone's property, they won't sell it. So he threatens him, holds him over a cliff. That's really the lesson of the Gemara. It's like he hangs him over a cliff. Yeah. So it sounds like theft, 100%. Right? But what's the answer? The rabbinical court's going to ask him, did you have intention to sell? And what is he going to say? Yes. But I was being held over a cliff. They don't care. He had intention to sell. What Reuven did wasn't good, no question about it. And no one should do it. Right? It's forbidden to do. But if he did it, still's good. Right? That's how it, that's how it would come out. But again, this is, we're making this, a lot shorter. There are a lot of other things going on here, a lot of details there. Right? But the general rule would be if he did it, should be good. Right? So we're just explaining why. But you're 100% right. Does it sound like theft? Yes. Does it sound like you did a good thing? No. Right? Right? But again, if he says, if Reuven would say, I want you to kill this person, or, we're going to kill you, okay, certain things you can't do. Right? Big three. You can't murder, can't commit idolatry, or immorality. Right? They put a gun to your head, hold you over a cliff, and say, bow down to JC or die, you got to die. Right? 100% you have to die. Now, if they hold you over a cliff, or put a gun to your head and say, sell this property, we're going to kill you, still a good sale. It's duress. Okay. But at the end of the day, he had intention to sell, save their lives. But he sold it. It's a good deal. Is Reuven going to get a nice portion of the world to come for this? No. But again, technically speaking, did he have in mind to sell? He had in mind to sell. Eyes under duress, good. Right? That's part of the whole thing over here. That's part of the whole discussion. Shouldn't work. I would agree. It shouldn't work. I took it one step further, and if he has intentions, fine. I'm not selling. And even if I have to sell, I'm going to try and get it back if I'm in a better position. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what his thoughts are at that point. Doesn't matter. The Beis Din's not going to care. Beis Din will say, you sold it. Nothing we can do. But I had no intention. Yeah. So they show him the document. I say, is this your signature? Yes. Is this the contract? Is the other person involved? Yes. Is it forgery? No, but I was under duress. They got to throw it out. The halacha is it's good. The question is, why is it good? That's the whole discussion here. That is the whole discussion. Right? It doesn't look good, right? It smells like theft and all that, right? Right? But the question is it's a good sale. Somebody asks, are we tested based on how much duress we can handle? We are tested according to what God understands we can handle, even if we think we cannot handle it. Yeah. They're hard tests. There are very hard tests we go through. Even though we live in a cream puff generation, tests are hard, whatever it is. So we believe 100% a test comes and it's something we can handle even if we don't think we can handle. God never put the person in a test they can't handle. Even if you made all the mistakes, doesn't matter. The fact is, even if it's hard, and it can be super hard, even if we did it to ourselves, okay, God can take you out from it. Shu Hashem care fine, right? Salvation of God come with a blink of an eyelash. Very good. Well, even if we do it to ourselves, God says, okay, I didn't stop you, right? The Gemara says, if a person wants to go in the right direction, God will help you. If you want to go in the wrong direction, He won't stop you. So you made a mistake. You went against God's 614th commandment, don't be stupid, right? Or the 615th commandment, don't be a moron. Okay, you did something wrong, right? You did something wrong, you're paying the price. Can't God help you even though He didn't stop you? He can help you. Sure, He can help you, right? Right? So even if you did it to yourself, right? Even if you did it to yourself, even if, you made the mistake. People can make mistakes, but guess what? There are consequences. There are consequences with mistakes. Maybe it's an onus. Someone, I don't know. Let's say someone had a court case. They got there late for whatever reason. Paperwork gets in late. Okay. Can it happen? It can happen. Let's say. You can say it's not my fault. I got delayed. I got this. I got that. Okay. Yeah. Well, there are repercussions for that. And the repercussions might be catastrophic. What happens? Someone's got a lot more power than another person. And that other person, they got high-priced lawyers, this and that. The other person gets trashed. You're going to say it's not fair. Okay. I agree. They're taken advantage of. Yes. Other things occur. Yes. Why is that fair? Didn't say it was. Well, it's a test like anything else. Why? Anyone's guess is as good as mine. Because whatever a person has to go through, you gotta say, but it's so hard. And it's so impossible. Does God ever put a person in trial he can't handle? No. We think we can't handle it, but God knows what He's doing. God knows what He's doing. Right? So, if a person was late and, there are repercussions for that, is that what God wants? These are the repercussions. This is part of the test. A person get upstairs after 120 years, you could ask the question, why'd you allow it to happen? God said, I don't allow it to happen. You did it to yourself. I just didn't stomp you. Yeah. And then God will show why this had to be that way. Right? So how do we understand it? We don't. You can say it's not fair. The system's not fair. Okay. Might not be. Even if it isn't. Even if it isn't. So why do you have to go through it? Why does it have to go through a difficult time? I know a number of people have gone through a difficult time through the courts. The court screwed them in different ways. Leads to depression, leads to other things. They lose faith in God. How could that happen? How could you let it happen? We don't know. We don't have answers. If we have proper faith, we have no questions. But there's the repercussion. Okay. In the end, it meets out the way God wants it to. Why? I can't answer that. I can't answer that. Yeah, people go through a lot of suffering, a lot of duress, no question. Question is how you deal with it, how you look at it. Plenty of things to be thankful for. There are plenty of things that are painful. Painful to see. Painful to go through. It's even worse if we do it to ourselves. Well, let's say we don't do it to ourselves. Let's say we do everything, we fight the system abuses us. Okay. So you say, well, I'm going to be better fighting the system. Okay. But in the end, let's say a person lost. Let's say. In the end, is God in charge or not? God's in charge. So you can ask the question. It's not a question of why did I do this? Why did the court say this or do that? It's what God ended up wanting to happen in the end. Why? You have to ask God that. But this is something he wanted to happen. And there can be terrible things. Right? When we see it in front of our eyes, we're going to say, really? This is the way it's supposed to go down? This is really what you want? Again, if we do it to ourselves, it's hard enough. Yeah? But let's say we put our best foot forward, and you get abused by it. What can a person ask? Right? What's the obvious question a person going to ask? Yesh din v'yesh dayin. What? There's a judge, there's judgment. Where's the judgment? Why, nice guys finish last. God calls it the way he sees it. But he's open and privy to so many things we don't know. You're going to say, but how could a just and loving God do this? And the answer is we don't know. That's the answer. We don't know. God is just. We just don't, Chofetz Chaim says, nothing bad comes out of heaven. Everything comes out of heaven, but it's not bad. So you're going to say, how do I look at what this is? It's bad. And the Chofetz Chaim answers, we just don't understand it. In the Munam Bitachon, the Sefer of Kol Bubbles in Shar Bitachon, in the gate of faith and belief in God, he says you got to put your best foot forward, right? He says a number of times. But he says putting your best foot forward is not a guarantee for success. Because God has to bless it. If he doesn't bless it, doesn't matter, but you still have to put your best foot forward. So here you do this, you do that. Why would God want this to happen? Again, I'm not God, so I can't tell you. Why would he want this person to suffer? Or me suffer, or both, or whatever? Can't answer. We don't know. Doesn't God have a reason? It's got a reason. Now there's so many things God's privy to that we're not? Yes. So why doesn't he show us? Because he doesn't have to. Right? That's the test. That's exactly the test. We live in an upside down world. We don't understand. Righteous people have it hard. Evil people seem to have it easy. Age-old question. But we don't fathom why. I think if God would open our eyes for a split second, we'd all drop dead of a heart attack. It's like the Matrix, 1.5 million things going on at the same time. And he's putting things together and repercussions and far-reaching repercussions and things we can't even imagine. Right? So yeah, it's all a test. It's all a test. His mother knew he had to stay, right? So his mother knew best, right? We talk about Esav and Yaakov, okay. But, Yaakov, down the line, his offspring paid the price for that. That's why our actions can have such far-reaching repercussions we can't imagine. We can't imagine. All right, that's just one, this is one example. Also, you have to get back to property. Right? Sign under duress wouldn't make me want to sell, but you have to sign because of the situation, right? So why does he have to give the money back? You're not going to give the money back. There's no way. Right? Again, if you would come into a rabbinical court, maybe even a secular court, I don't know how a secular court works, right? But I'll tell you, if you would walk into a rabbinical court and say, I had no intention to sell, the only reason I sold is because I had a gun to my head. And I was being hung over a cliff. My family was threatened. I don't know. Legitimate excuses. The rabbinical court is going to say it doesn't matter what your intention was. We see over here you signed the document. It's your signature. He admits it's his signature. But he's explaining why it's his signature. So the rabbinical court said you sold it. Intention here doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That's the point. Right? He wouldn't be able to say, I don't want to sell, right? 100%. He can't say that. He cannot say, I don't want to sell. He could say, I only sold under duress. Very good. Yeah? Well, they're not going to listen to that. Because he sold it. Doesn't matter why he sold it. He sold it. 100% he sold it. So once he sold it, even if he sold it under duress, it's a good sale. Right? But again, these are good questions. Why should it work? Same question I had. And I was learning this many years ago. It should never work. This guy's a crook. This guy's a thief. He's trying to steal your property, right, by being a mafioso. Shouldn't work. Gemara says it works. Because he had intention to sell. That's the whole point. Doesn't matter why. The fact is he had intention to sell. The rabbinical court's going to say, did you sell? Yes. Do you have intention to sell? Well, not really. I was being hung over a cliff. But in the end, you sold it. And you had intention to sell. Only to save my life. They're going to say it doesn't matter. You sold it. That, you say the logic is backwards. Yeah, it should never be a good sale. But guess what? Words in his heart don't matter. He sold. Doesn't matter the circumstance. So yeah. Again, this is a much, much bigger topic. It's a much, much bigger topic. Only hitting a few things on it. It's much more complicated. But you're right. Face value shouldn't work. I agree. It shouldn't work, but it comes out that it does. Right? Just explain a little bit why. Right? You have to have a third party's witness to your. You have to have witnesses, right? But what happens if you don't have witnesses? Even if the other party agreed, he hung him over a cliff, but he wanted to sell. He says he wanted to sell. I just happened to hang him over a cliff. Yeah, if you had witnesses, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know if that would help either. I'm not sure that would help. I mean, whatever. I have to investigate this more, but I don't think that would help either. What do I care? There are witnesses there. So what has been hung? He admits. Reuven admits he hung him over. He hung him over a cliff. Okay. He admits it. What's the basin going to say? They would say he still had intention to sell. Yeah. It could come out, again, look into it further, right? It could come out, if Reuven admits what he did, maybe it goes back. Maybe they say, okay, it's not a good sale. If he admits it, takes him to court, he admits it. But if I remember correctly, it doesn't help. Because the intention to sell doesn't matter. Couldn't everybody do this? Yeah, in theory. Right? That would be the thing against it. Yeah, everyone could do that. Threaten someone to get their property. Yeah, it could be. Right? So, I have to look into it further. Could be there are cases that it wouldn't be permitted. Right? Is it true? One could say, I just couldn't get out of the contract. I answered that. Right? That I answer. Right? If the contract's not written. My point was, if Reuven says, or Shimon says, I'm obligated to Reuven 100. There's no contract. There are no witnesses. Yeah, that he could say, I was just kidding. If it's already written up, or it hasn't been written up, but he said in front of witnesses, then he can't back out. Right? Then he's not allowed to back out. For sure he's not allowed to back out. Because now he's got witnesses, he's got a document. And even if it's not written, witnesses alike, he's got a document. But if he doesn't have witnesses, and he just says he's liable for 100, doesn't mean anything. He could say he was just kidding. right? Because it's not written down, or it doesn't have witnesses. So being late was all right, was your fault. Okay, but again, if God wanted it, right? Let's make it clear. Let's say someone had a court case, they come late. They came late, so they lose. Like I say, it's your fault for being late. Okay. But couldn't God change the result if he wanted to, even if you were late? God can do anything. God can change outcomes. He can do anything. If God can do anything, then you being late doesn't really matter. He could change it. He can make the court decide otherwise. Okay. Got that power. But if you were supposed to lose, so this technically looks like, if a person's late, they lose, let's say. But why did they lose? Because God wanted them to lose. Why did God want them to lose? I knew questions like that, I'd be world famous. Yeah. The answer is we don't know. We don't know. We're not privy to that. We don't know. But what we do know is God wanted to happen. I remember that somebody died, and I asked them, what happened? What do you get? What happened? He died. Right? Isn't that the right answer? Person died. God took them. Sometimes, a person can just be, much older, sometimes younger, whatever it is. But the person died, bottom line. Do we care how they were taken? Sometimes it's taken a nasty way. It shakes us up. Or someone dies at the ripe old age. Okay, I never thought they were going to die, maybe. But what happens? God took them. Does it really matter in the bigger scheme of things? How? So some people say yes. Some people say, of course it matters. They're taken in a nasty way. It's bad. Looks bad. Why do bad things happen like that? Looks awful. 100%. By the end of the day, we're all going to die, right? 2 guarantees of life, death and taxes, right? Not necessarily in that order. It's the way it is. So it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But see, it shakes us up, though. Things like that happen, shakes us up. Why'd it have to be that way? We don't know. A lot of these missiles, falling in places that empty areas. It's up north, other places. A lot of them, there are hits and buildings, but very few. So imagine, God forbid, a couple was killed a few weeks ago. I think it was like a few weeks ago, direct hit. They're on the road. Hit them directly. Missile hit them directly. What does that mean? What happened to the Iron Dome? What happened, what happened knocking it down? Didn't get knocked down, hit them direct. So, what does that mean? It means that was their time to go. Rabbi Moshe Schneider would say every bullet has its, every missile has its place. Right? When it's your time to go, it doesn't matter. You can't outfox the angel of death. How it happens, we're not in control. So you say, for goodness sakes, like the majority of missiles fall, hit open areas. Why did they get hit? You could say, oh, Patriot missile missed it. They didn't get it in time. You can say all kinds of things according to nature. But what's the bottom line? What's the bottom? I mean, I'm not laughing here. What's the bottom line? Bottom line is they had to dive through a direct hit. Even though 95% of all the missiles get knocked down. Their missile didn't get knocked down. Not only did it get knocked down, they got hit direct. Right? Never good. If you're in a car or almost anywhere and car's worse. Yeah, missiles coming. I don't even know like what you're thinking at that point. You see the missile coming directly at you. They're like, there's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. That's it. For a split second, boom. Yeah, car got hit. It was over. Why did God allow that to happen? Don't know. The only thing I do know is that's how they died. That's how God took them. It's tragic. We can't pick the way we're going to die. No question, but every missile has its place. Then it's kind of ironic. You could say, well, 95% or 97% of all the missiles hit nothing. They hit open areas. Okay. You don't want to be part of that 3% and hit something where you are. Yeah, whether you're closer or not closer, it doesn't matter. You don't want to be there. You do not want to be there because you don't know what can happen. These things are totally destructive. Totally destructive. The missile the other day hit a building near a kindergarten. Yeah, building got hit. The I don't know, the windows, I guess, of the kindergarten got smashed, but thank God everyone was okay. But it's rare when these missiles hit buildings. It happens. It happens, but like the amount of missiles being sent, astronomical amount of missiles being sent, and most of them, getting knocked down or hitting open areas is pretty miraculous. That's no question. That's the merit of people sitting and learning Torah. No question about it. Because God forbid, it could do a lot more damage. A lot more damage. Hitting different cities and whatever. A lot, infinitesimally amount more damage. But if it does and people get killed, that's okay. That's how they're going. That's how God wants to take them. So we're not in control of them. I'm just saying that, in general, if 97% get knocked down or they hit, open areas, seemingly be pretty safe, relatively speaking. But if that's your time to go and missile hits, and nothing you can do, right? And certainly nothing you can do. But I would say, someone there points out, you're right, it's all cause and effect. We don't, bottom line, we don't see the cause and effect. Sometimes more obvious, sometimes less obvious, but like far-reaching repercussions, we don't see. We definitely don't see. I don't think there's any question. Whatever, God will show us. At some point, God will show us what the cause and effect was. But we don't see it. We don't see far-reaching repercussions. Sometimes we do, but most times I don't think we have a clue. I definitely don't think we have a clue. Imagine, let's say, a person studies for a test really hard. They come up and they mix things up. They forget things, different things, gets them angry. You say, what happened over here? I studied, and, I mixed things up and I messed things up. Okay. Yeah. We make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. We have to realize there's a price to pay for the mistakes. And a lot of prices we pay, we don't know why. We don't know why. We're not in God's head. We don't see the bigger picture. We don't fathom the bigger picture. It's just, there's no possible way. No possible way at all. And if we would, we'd be God, but we're not. So the end result of things, a person's gonna ask, why was I born to this family? Why, did I get stuck in this relationship? Why? I don't know. Million things we could ask. Some we have better answers, some, be the case of Asa, we got tricked. People get tricked. People give into their evil inclination. People see things that they missed. Made serious mistakes. It happens. Far-reaching repercussions. True. Very, very true. I'll tell you the worst thing. You did it to yourself. That's the worst thing. But again, even if you did it to yourself, you got to have a moon, okay? God allowed it to happen. Obviously, I'm supposed to learn a lesson here. What am I supposed to gain from this? And how am I supposed to get out of it? It could lead a person to serious depression. You made a mistake, a serious mistake. I get this all the time. People say, I did this, I did that. God's never going to forgive me. How can I fix it? I'm stuck in the same rut. I got people bothering me, badgering me, society, like a million things, overload. Total overload. What's the answer? Torah. That's the answer. Being immersed in Torah. Again, doesn't solve everything. But you need that as a guiding force. Because if you don't have the guiding force, you're just going around in circles. You have no idea. You can say this about anything. Why this happened, why that happened. Okay, isn't God in charge? God's ultimately in charge. 100%, he's in charge. Doesn't mean you have to be stupid, but he's in charge. Question is how you deal with it. We're our own worst enemy. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Yeah. And we want to succeed. We want to do things well. And there are obstacles. Remember, anytime a person wants to do something good, Mr. S is going to put up obstacles. You can put up tons of obstacles because they don't want you to succeed. They want you to get frustrated. They want you to give up. The Gemara Baruch says, even when the sword is against your throat, against your neck, God can still have mercy. But Torah, again, what's one of the hardest things to acquire is Torah. You got to want it more than anything else. More than anything else, because it's a hard thing to acquire. Isn't it easy to get distracted? Yes. Plenty of things to get distracted. God doesn't want you to get distracted, but we're lazy. We do things, yeah. We can get distracted. Doesn't want that. But isn't it aggravating when we do? Isn't it aggravating when, people put pressure and we want to give in and, we want to please people and they can't be pleased, and no matter what we do isn't good enough. So you know what? You got to look out for yourself. You got to be selfish. You got to look out for yourself. You got to try and help others. Be compassionate, other things. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to look out for yourself. Because no one else is going to look out for you. You think, what about God? He's going to look out for you. Good. When you're feeling squeezed, and everything, and nothing worse trying to fight against the world. It's the hardest thing. I had this. I went through it. Still go through it. Different ways. The whole world against you. So what my Rebbe say? Go eat kugel. That's what you got to do. You can tell everyone to go screw themselves. You can say that, say it in a nicer way. Right? But you got to do what you need to do. And if they're going to be bad influence, imagine, God forbid someone has cancer. What do you do with cancer? You burn it. You burn it out of your system. Weaken your system also. But you burn it out of your system. Why? Because you won't have any remnants of it. You want to kill the whole thing. So family and friends could be like that also. I'm not saying you burn them up, but I'm just saying you just got to put them by the wayside. Because they are going to destroy you. They don't have your best interest. They have their own interest, selfish interest. They want you to be like them. They want you to be normal. They want you to go down this path. They want you to be fanatical. They want this, that, whatever it is. And they can put a lot of pressure. But you know what? You got to do what you need to do. Everything else around you can't worry about it. You just can't. It's aggravating. You want to show them, your life or whatever. They don't have any part of it. Okay. Not much you can do. Try to show them they don't want to drink the Kool-Aid. Okay, it's their choice. It's their choice. Families say, people say family's everything. Right? Blood is thicker than water. Right? Anyone hear that? Blood is thicker than water. Okay, so what? Family can be an albatross. An absolute albatross. Anyone love, like having their head smashed against the wall? Like on a daily basis? I don't know. I don't think anyone enjoys that. So why would a person, just take all that? You don't need it. You don't need it. So I have to have connections. Okay. But, to a point. Friends can be well-meaning and whatever, but what comes first? God comes first. Torah comes first. I can't worry what people are going to say or do. You got to do what you need to do. Anyone in this process, for the sake of conversion, if you don't think about yourselves first, you won't get anywhere. You're still worrying about what this person's going to say, that person's going to say, whatever. You got to do what you need to do. And doing what you need to do can come at, a price. Come at a serious price. You got to ask yourself, is it worth it? I can't answer that. For me, it was worth it. Made a lot of enemies down the line. Okay. Nothing to do. The only question I would always say is how much damage control can you do? That's it. You can only do damage control. So you do what you can do to the best of your abilities, and the chips fall where they fall. Not something you can worry about. You do, you do what you can try and do. You don't want to make waves, you don't want to offend people, but it ends up happening. It ends up happening. So then you got to make a decision. You want these people in your life or not? That's, again, that's a question I can't answer. Definitely a question I can't answer. But answer for yourself. Some people say it's worth it. Some people will say it's not worth it. Some people try and make, straddle the line a little bit. It's hard. I don't think too many people are getting, slammed, slammed over that. I don't think, most people enjoy it. So if you know that's going to happen, you got to limit it. Or just say, we're not going to talk about this, or, whatever. So if they're bad influence, you got to burn them out. You got to cut them out. That's the only way, because they're going to take you down a negative path. Right? That's what they want. They want you to be like them, do what they do. That's going to interfere. That's going to go against a lot of things you believe in. Most things you believe in. So they have no choice. So, you have to move on. It's a hard thing to do. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but your life's going to come first. You want to succeed in this matter, you got to be strong as fire. That's the only way. There is no other way. It can't be wishy-washy here. Right? You want to try and do the right thing the best of your ability. Okay, but it doesn't always work out that way. The only question is how much you tick people off. That's it. You're not doing it on purpose. Or it's damage control. Right? Damage control. So you do the best you can. If they don't like it, then go eat cocoa. Move on. Right? And that's what most people are going to end up doing. Right? Someone once told me, said, oh, come on. You would tell people to do that? I said, it depends. I said, it depends on the situation. Some people say, come on, not going to be so popular, why listen to him, or this, that. You're right, it's not going to be so popular, but whose life comes first? In spiritual terms, whose life comes first? Your life comes first. 100% it comes first. Right? Nothing to talk about. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Israel Time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Malchaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, Ethics of Our Fathers, Book of Leviticus. If you want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, which I'm having a good beginning of the day.